So I wanted to kind of walk you guys through the top 5 upgrades that I normally do on any vehicle that I buy, besides this car that I'm driving right now, my 2019 SCI, and I'll kind of talk about that and why I didn't do it this time. I only picked out a couple of things that I did to this car, but like I said, we'll talk about that towards the end. So the number one thing that I do to any vehicle as soon as I get it is I swap out the wheels. Most manufacturers just do not get the wheels right. And as soon as I buy it, that's the first thing I'm looking for, usually a couple of sizes up and with a little bit more of a lower profile tire. So that's going to be the first upgrade that I do. I don't go crazy with forged wheels or overly expensive wheels just because of the brand name. So most of the time that really doesn't bother me. Now, are forged wheels a little bit better? Of course they are. I mean, they are forged wheels, but should they be that much more expensive? And in my opinion, no. It just takes a little bit longer because, you know, they cut it out of a block of aluminum versus, you know, pouring the cast and shaping it that way. So, yeah, a little bit stronger, a little bit whatever. You know, you can do all kinds of different designs and finishes and everything like that. But is it really worth that kind of price tag for me to put it on a vehicle, especially if I'm having it as a daily or as a weekend car that's not, you know, tuned to some kind of racing spec? In my opinion, no. So most of the time when I go with wheels, I like to stick to something that's a little bit better quality, but at the same time, you know, I'm not going to be paying just for a name brand just because it's a name brand kind of wheel. So normally when I get the wheels and of course tires, kind of falls into the same package, I'll start looking at, you know, from that point on, you know, I'll put them on the vehicle, you know, just kind of see what fits and everything like that, and then I'll start thinking about the suspension. So usually suspension is number 2 on that vehicle, and it's the right height always bothers me with most cars. There are a couple of manufacturers that just seem to get it right, where you don't have to do that. I hate to say this, but I think BMW definitely gets it right as far as how much space you have in between the tire and the top of the fender. So in this instance, you know, I always say like, oh, I should just get springs, but most of the time I end up getting coilovers. I like the adjustability factor of that. So am I going to be purchasing some kind of crazy, you know, expensive coilover set? Probably not. You know, I'm going to look for something in the middle. You know, I don't want something too expensive, but at the same time, I don't want anything that's cheap where it could fail. So that's usually upgrade number 2, is a nice set of coilovers. I found that for most applications, just based on reviews and based on the price point, BC Racing definitely has a good set of coilovers. I always, for whatever reason, kind of tend to go and gravitate towards them. Usually number 3, just because it's something easy to do, something I can kind of swap in and out effortlessly, is a decent exhaust system. So most of the time I don't try to go berserk with the exhaust system. I just try to do a catback exhaust, just remove some of the, you know, blockage, put a beefier pipe on there, and just go get rid of the resonators and the mufflers. Most vehicles that I drive, I don't need the mufflers in order to make some kind of adjusted sound. If it is a vehicle that that needs some kind of muffler, like where you would have an adjusted sound, and it's not just based solely on noise preference, most of the time I don't even do that, right? So for example, I had an Accord for the longest time, no exhaust on it whatsoever, because in order for that exhaust to sound good, I think I would have to modify the crap out of that car. And honestly, I wasn't in that kind of mode to do that kind of modification. So that car is stuck pretty stock for a long time. The only thing I did to it were wheels and suspension and a couple other things, and it was pretty much good to go. Fourth modification that I normally do is window tinting. Window tinting, in my opinion, definitely has to be done. As you can see, I don't have window tints on here, which will change soon, but that's usually the fourth modification. So wheels, tires, followed by suspension, followed by exhaust, followed by window tinting. Now, do I normally follow that order? Sometimes. It all depends on my price point. That would be the ideal order that I would like to follow, but most of the time, I mean, you know, you kind of end up doing the window tinting first just because it's the cheapest route to go. beside it, controlling the temperature pretty nicely, you know, during hot weather. Most of the time, the car just looks better with the window tints. I don't try to go super crazy with my window tints either. I've seen vehicles where it just looks like they spray painted the windows, and it just doesn't look right. I'm not even talking from a lawful point of view, it just, the car doesn't look right. It looks like it needs some transparency. And for me personally, like, I like it around the 30% range, maybe a little bit lower, like 25 to 30%. I think that's the ideal window tint. Have I had lower window tint? Absolutely. When I had my Camaro, I had actually 2% on the rear and 5% on the front. It's just not practical. The car doesn't even look all that great, to be honest, like I said. And, you know, it would be winter time. At night, I have to put the windows down just so I could see my rearview mirrors. I mean, it's very impractical to go that dark. So the last thing that I do when I get a new vehicle is I evaluate the sound. Most of the time the sound is crap, and I'm not just talking about the speakers, I'm talking about the overall experience. And what I'll normally do is, yeah, I'll swap out the speakers, but I'll also remove any kind of rattling, anything that kind of drives me crazy inside the car. And usually that's done through basically like insulating the doors properly, you know, applying that Dynamat, Fat Mat, whatever soundproofing material, and then even doing the floors, the trunk, and eliminating any rattles on the outside like the license plate, and trying to get the inside to feel like a place, like a serene place, right? So, I mean, I do have my quote-unquote race car where I wouldn't mind having everything stripped out. I still don't like the rattles. I don't want it rattling for no reason, so, I mean, I would still tuck all the wires and all that stuff. But for a daily driver, especially when you're going on long-distance trips, you don't want stuff rattling. You don't want to have to yell at your passenger just because you have a loud exhaust. You want the inside cabin to be decent. Put the windows down if you want to super loud. And like I said, speaker quality, while you're enjoying music, might as well enjoy it properly. Now, your exhaust may not be as loud as mine is, so you may not want to soundproof it to deaden the sound inside, but at the very least, I think every car should come with some kind of rattle protection. Like right now, as I'm recording, I have to keep stopping every time I go over these massive bumps, just because the one thing I haven't insulated yet, the dash, keeps rattling in this vehicle. Like I said, I definitely like my cars loud, as you can hear, but I don't want it so loud that, you know, I have to try to unplug my ears as I'm driving, just because the interior noise gets way too ridiculous. And now back to this vehicle. So this is a 2019 STI that really I haven't done much to for over a year. And it was a vehicle that I bought that I was honestly just strangely surprised how much I like driving it stock. So I drove for quite a distance, and I mean, I told myself, you know, I even talked to my friends about this. I said, this vehicle, I'm not going to do any kind of modifications just yet. I want to just enjoy it as it is, as it came out of the factory. And that's what I did for about a few months. Didn't touch anything on this car. Then I went back and I started doing some minor modifications. So I did the catback exhaust, just because this car just does not sound right with the mufflers that it comes with stock. So that was the first thing that I ended up doing. I started looking at wheels, and honestly, the wheel choice for this one, in my opinion, is perfect. There's really nothing that I could find out there that's any better. I mentioned in one of my other videos that one thing that I would like is if somebody made exactly the same wheels, some OE spec wheels, and 19-inch like these come, with just a slightly more negative offset, I would definitely go for that, just because I think the wheels stick in ever so slightly inside the fender. That's also one of the reasons why I haven't even installed window tint, is like I said, I wanted to drive this car in its pure raw form for quite some time. It's been a little bit over a year right now, so it's time to put the window tint on here. I also noticed that the next probably upgrade that I'm going to do is the coilovers, just because the car sits ever so slightly higher than I would normally like it to. And I'm already installing the soundproofing material on it, so the doors are finished and the material's coming in a couple of days that I needed in order to do the trunk and the floor. So that's it as far as the top 5 upgrades that I do on my vehicles. Again, to recap: wheels and tires, suspension, interior insulation / soundproofing, window tint, and exhaust.